Well, hello there. I'm Maggie Allisey. Dance is something very near and dear to my heart. Any child, any race, any creed, when they're about a year old or a year and a half and they're about that tall and they're holding onto a coffee table and somebody starts some music or something and goes dump-de-dump, that little person will start moving to the music, and that's dance.
I dance because it feels natural. I dance because I have to.
I dance because it feels like I'm flying, really.
Dance is my life. I dance because it is my calling.
Dance inspires me because I've learned that there's no limit to what you can do, dance.
Art is there to give us a platform that we can stand up and say what we must say in a creative way.
I find my inspiration in different places. People ask me that question quite often, and I think it's hard to pinpoint. Sometimes if I can't find an idea, I'll listen to music, and music is a great way to be inspired. Oftentimes I do start with the music, but I can be driving my car somewhere and all of a sudden an idea comes to me, and sometimes it's the juxtaposition of what you're seeing and what you're hearing. It can be all sorts of different inspiration.
I think it's the music and the feeling that I get, the way that the music creates movement.
Dance inspires me because I love physicality and I like working hard and I like pushing myself physically. I mean, I see choreography all the time. If I hear music, I just have little daydreams of things that could happen.
This last year, I've really been focusing on making projects in Detroit and that are very specific to, what sort of inspires me here and the fabric of the city, the history, the kind of just really interested in this aesthetic of it, all of these things. I think initially I was really interested in the spaces. I love dancing in the theater, but I really like bringing dance and bringing work into unexpected kind of locales. I work architecturally often, so that becomes the sort of framing of bodies and space really happens and complements the visual field, but then also the sort of experiential element.
It's really about thinking globally, dancing locally. I'm looking at the world and I'm saying, okay, what is our job here at the Music Hall? We've often said that we are like the final line of defense for thought and cultural equality. But we use the performing arts as a vehicle for understanding, for education, for putting world cultures on display and making them accessible enough where you have options in your life. You can say, oh, I liked this with the Russians. Oh, I liked this with Alonzo King. Oh, I liked this music that they used.
So I kind of feel like the Music Hall is like this nucleus of where change can happen in Detroit. And I think it's because of what they do for children, what they're doing for adults. I mean, they're really helping the whole community see things they wouldn't necessarily get to see.
We are known all over the country for our boys program. We usually carry anywhere from 50 to 100 boys. We bring them into a community of other boys dancing. We do sports training while they're dancing, so they feel like it's applying to something that they're more accustomed to, maybe with the sports, and we do it through really cool music. We all have to inspire each other, no matter what your level is.
The community of guys who were dancing around me was very large. My dance studio had close to 100 guys at one point, and that was great to have that camaraderie there, and it didn't feel weird for a guy to dance, you know, and I think that's a very unique experience for a male performer to have, and we were very lucky to have that, and it happened in Michigan.
It's the performing arts. It's a safe place for conversation.
You know, when you look at it, is it popular? Are the masses coming? I mean, that's should not be the measuring stick, ever. You know, you do what you ought to do. You know that art is the vehicle for so many things, and we're seeing that across the board.
I think what's interesting about dance that separates us from other forms, like the thing that we're using to communicate, we carry every single day.
The audience sees all nationalities, all skin colors, all shapes and sizes. So every kid in the audience can see themselves on stage.
When you go on stage, you're telling a story, you're showing an emotion, you're trying to have the audience being part of what you're doing. You have to create an atmosphere that when that happens, it's like you have the audience next to you, you have the audience in the palm of your hands, and they're dancing with you and they're being part of what you're doing.
I like to bring in great dance so that we have a bar to go to, so that my audience knows what it is. And then I also like to support great local dance.
It's a craft that demands discipline and showing up every day and being present. It is never perfect. It is always a quest to master and harness and what have you.
I mean, it's the thing you love the most about it and the thing you hate the most about it, is that it's never possible for it to be finished. It's never possible for it to be perfect. It can always be better. It can always be more rich, more realized.
I think it's not an overall idea of just the movement, it's a feeling. There's this underlying sense of angst in it. There's a consistent sense of urgency behind it, and I think that we all carry that, and we can find that in any story. You know what I mean? Any theater story, any TV show. I promised myself when I started this that I would always go back to that. It's not even going back to it, it's like in my skin. It's in my blood, you know? It's innate. You know what I mean? So I think it'll always be, I know it'll always be a light surrounding me.
What I like about dance is it expresses something that you can't put into words. And I really like it that it's intangible sometimes, that you can't, you feel it and you relate to it, but it's on a level that you can't really articulate.
I'm trying to sort of create this otherly world, a place that is of the fantastical, sort of working outside of my own inspirations and how can I expand my own sort of horizons. What could I possibly step into that could, stimulate me and move me in a different kind of mindset?
In a world where everybody is literally like this, forgetting what the power of this is. I feel that this work encompasses what it is of what pop culture really is, and not the sugary sweetness of what it is, but the actual nourishment of what it is.
Our program is a ministry-based program. Every performance we do is a benefit. We also have a group of dancers going with myself and my family to Zambia this summer to do a performing arts camp for the orphanage for Living Hope International.
It was just so cool to see how joyful they are while they're dancing and how they love it so much. But when they dance, it's just like, it's such a universal language where we can all just communicate in the same way. It's been a really cool experience.
We're doing 5 creations this year because evolving the art form is a critical part of our mission. And what better place to attempt to evolve than Detroit? We invent and we reinvent. We have a history of it. There's not another place on the planet, I think, where so much creativity has emanated from.
What we take around the world, we bring to Detroit. I mean, and Detroit is really a rich cultural hub that appears to be booming.
You can come and you can make something. The dancers that are here right now want to work and want to dance and start a career.
All the ingredients are here to make Detroit a mecca of art and performing.
We were connecting with children, with elderly, through higher education, through professional dancers. All of those veins we felt were equally as important. Using art and using dance, we empower our participants to explore movement and music in ways that are refreshing and enjoyable, stimulating and creative. And we also address specific concerns: balance, flexibility, coordination, isolation, and depression. These classes are community. These classes are supportive. These classes are looked at through dance and not through therapy. And they're inspirational, not just for the participants, but for us.
I think So You Think You Can Dance is definitely getting into the love for dance, of course, because it's just what you see. There's no extra drama. They say, "Are you ready?" And I say yes, and we go in the studio and they press record on their camera. It's nothing else. The time is hard, because there's not a lot of time. But what I've seen in terms of growth on that show has changed, for myself and the dancers, it's changed my life. It's breeding really inspiring dancers that are young, that have a dream to dance and to choreograph.
Detroit, cultural capital of contemporary dance. That's what's happening, and you're a part of it. And welcome to the world premiere of Stardust, the ballet tribute to David Bowie.
I have been a David Bowie fan for a very, very long time. And I always wanted to do something to his music, whether it be a ballet or, I don't know, some sort of theatrical production of some sort. And, after he died, I thought, I have to somehow find a way to get his music to be a visual experience in the theater, and certainly because I'm a choreographer, so through dance. And I knew we were coming to Detroit. Vince Paul over at the music hall and I have been friends forever. I called him, he was already thinking about Bowie, and we just kind of got on the phone, talked about it, and he was just like, well, let's do it. Let's find a way to do this. I would love to have this here in Detroit. And I said, yeah, and then there's a connection with Detroit and Bowie. And once he gave me the green light that he was going to get behind it and support it, I was just like, so when can I start? Let's get this done. Let's get this going. There's so much dimension in his music that to me it screamed for movement. And I might be a little biased because, again, I'm a choreographer, so I hear music and I see movement. But it was a combination of that, and then the meaning of his lyrics are not conventional at all. And so when I sat back and I looked and I was like, wow, this is even more than I thought it was. Much of it is poetry or prose with the music. And then again, the music was so symphonic at times, so large. It had such a large scale to it that I felt like putting that on a stage with a group of performers and bringing something new to it through movement was going to be just fantastic.
I always say I locked myself in that studio for 4 years and figured out really how I wanted to move and how I wanted to demand my voice in it, and how I wanted to fuse the bass, the electronic music, the sound of Detroit, and that's how I wanted to dance.
As you'll see, it started with, kind of the process the way that we normally go about it. Alonzo makes a bunch of phrases, we start playing with how they go with a different sound, and then he sort of puzzles pieces together and edits and reorganizes a little bit and tweaks things. But the more that we used these soundscapes that have, a giant growl or a crash of lightning in it, the more the dancers couldn't help but sort of respond to those noises. What maybe didn't start as looking like a bird, but then there's birds tweeting. Every time you do it, you start to sort of become sort of more one with the music.
So whether it's People of the Forest with Alonzo King. That mesmerizing kind of music that he uses, his connection to nature and the planet. Again, using the idiom of dance, we're able to go deeper into a subject because we are jogging your mind and activating your mind, and you get to interpret it the way you want to interpret it.
But when you have the audience there's something that happens to the dancers. For one, they suddenly become somehow a little bit more invested in the work. There's just a little more something that happens on the stage. And then you get a sense from the audience of the sort of how they're relating to the piece, and that kind of makes the whole thing come full circle.
There are 18 professional theaters in Detroit, and you can see anything from Bonnie Raitt to orchestra to Bruce Springsteen to the Jersey Boys. You know, the music hall stage is dedicated to those thought-provoking performing arts services.
This concept of Artivism, you know, everyone wants to be able to provoke thought. That's great. But why not create work that can provoke action?
At the end of the day, we have to just keep doing what we know we ought to do. And that is, you know, do whatever we can to support art, because art is so important and vital to humanity.
The important thing is that we're trying to show other communities that you can do this in your community just like it happens here, because it's so good for everyone to dance.
And again, I just think that this is an eye-opening moment for Detroit. And for you guys that live here, that the support is here. And so we just must keep doing more and more and keep building and sort of feeding and fertilizing the communities with these cultural endeavors.
If I've already gotten this far, I'm gonna just keep seeing what we can do next.
The performing arts institutions are like service providers in your life. We fill that gap in the whole life, right? In a whole, complete life.
Dance is the soul of life. To dance is to recognize that life is worth living.
It's a very well-connected profession that you can't forget that you're working with your soul.